Hey everyone, this is Robby Besner, the device developer and the co-founder of Therasage. Welcome back to another episode of Healthy Hotline. And today we have a super special guest and a really dear friend of mine, the most loving person you'll ever want to meet, Dr. Leanne Fritz. And she's going to tell us about a new innovative way to actually conquer your weight loss challenges if you have them. She wrote this amazing book that I had an opportunity to read cover to cover, and I couldn't put it down because one chapter leads right into the other. She's reduced or consolidated the whole weight loss concept into sort of 5 easy steps to understand. But what's most important about Leanne, besides my strong affection for her and her husband, is her passion for healing people. And she has a practice. It's in Michigan. So you can reach her through her website, newhopehealth.com, which is spelled NEWHOPEHEALTH.com. And there you can just contact her directly, figure out the best ways to work together. She likes hands-on. How unusual in this COVID environment that there's some practitioner out there that's just so old school that when she gets you in the room, when she feels your energy, when she's able to tap into that flow, that unspoken quantum field of energy around you, that it really gives her the information that she needs to tap into her intuitive side to be the best doctor that she can be for you. So she's truly amazing. We met and we both have besides all the other things in common, we have a common thread through a mentor of mine, also a mentor of her that she mentions, gives an honorable mention in her book, Dr. Bob Marshall, who has passed, and Dr. Marshall and his wife, Dr. Forbes, co-founding Premier Research Laboratories, developed a complete array of supplements that are truly amazing. If you opened up my supplement cupboard, which occupies more space than the clothes that I own in my house, basically it's all QRA, it's all all PRL stuff, and it's amazing supplements. So with that, let me introduce Leanne Fritz and tell us, Dr. Fritz, a little bit, Leanne, about like your story, how you kind of got started, and then we can sort of dive into a little bit about your passions and, of course, about your approach to weight loss, which is, before we start, I studied weight management or weight loss for about 2 or 3 years, pretty in depth, and read books about, diets for blood types, diets for your Ayurvedic approach of whether your body type. I've studied all different ways to approach the weight loss challenge if you have one. And the one that I really honestly feel is the most original and the most appropriate for today's world is actually what you've harnessed in looking at the energetic fields, the areas, the blocks that aren't necessarily traditional in weight management that really could prevent you from getting a result. Or maybe you get a result, but it's not an optimal result. And that's what I love about your book and I love about your approach. So with that, I'm going to stop talking now. And you're going to tell us a little bit about your journey and where that brings us to today. So
yeah.
please, by all
Thank
means.
you. Thank you so much, Robby. Mike and I love you and Melody, and I'm so excited to be here and be able to share with your followers. And so my story kind of starts, I'll give you the short version is I had some health challenges actually when I was just out of high school. I injured my knees weightlifting, and I wasn't able to rehab them. I mean, I did everything. I went to physical therapy. This was a long time ago. I tried medication. I did electrical stimulation. I tried rest. I did everything and nothing helped. And I was actually a personal trainer. That's what I was going to college for. That's my undergrad is in exercise physiology. And so exercise was kind of my life. It was the answer to everything. And it was the answer to all of my clients' problems. And so, you know, when I injured my knees and wasn't able to exercise without pain, uh, it was truly devastating for me. And so through, you know, I'll just say through God's grace, I ended up meeting a naturopathic doctor on a trip I was in New York. And I started talking with him and he's like, you know, I could probably help you with your knees. And I'm like, back then I had never heard of a naturopath. It was kind of funny because I was like, I've been to all these specialists, I've tried everything, but I was kind of like one of those eye rollers, which is kind of funny what I do now. But I was like, yeah, okay, but I didn't have anything to lose. No, nothing else had been able to help me. And so that sort of got me into like, you know, put my foot in the door, if you will, in this like natural healing and that whole world. And so long story short, I went and saw him. And after this knee issue, it had probably been going on maybe 2 years at this point. After about 3 or 4 weeks on his program, some whole food supplements, a dietary change, I was probably 80% better. So, you know, I like minor pain, but I could still run, I could still bike, you know, and I hadn't been able to do those things at all. And then, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months into his program, my knees were completely healed. Like I could run 6 miles without pain after 2 years with not being able to do that. And so that kind of got me hooked in this natural world. And then, long story short, I started learning more about nutrition. I studied, got a master's degree in vegan nutrition through Gabriel Cousins. And then I thought, okay, I guess the answer to everything isn't exercise. It must be diet. And then it didn't take long for me to realize that there's still something missing. So even my clients who have it all down, they've got the diet honed in, they've got, you know, they're exercising every day. Sometimes they're still not losing the weight or getting the result they want, which is what sort of sent me into this search for what are we missing. And that is where the quantum dynamic came, and my PhD dissertation, which is what the book is based on, which is basically, my degree was in natural medicine from a quantum physics standpoint. So I just want to just kind of throw out there for anybody who like quantum is like, what does that mean? It's like, you know, wooey wooey. Quantum is just all the unseen. So yes, we can get into some technological terms about morphogenetic fields and, you know, entanglement and non-local healing, but the bottom line, what you really want to understand with the quantum dynamic, it's the stuff that's going on behind the scenes that we can't see, but it's always there and it's having a bigger impact than even the seen. So, you know, I always give the example, it was probably maybe 20 years ago, there was some research done by some a group of transcendental meditation people that went into Washington, D.C., which has one of the higher crime rates in the country, go figure. And they meditated for a certain amount of time, crime went down. And like the law, you know, the police and the sheriffs and the, you know, government agencies were like, that's a fluke. So they said, okay, we'll go out, crime went back up. And they repeated this like 3 times. All that they were doing is meditating. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways to do meditation, but ultimately the idea is they were putting intentions of peace into that area. And lo and behold, more peace was a result. The same kind of thing. You've heard about like people that are prayed over in hospitals. There's groups of people that would just go into hospitals and pray over sick people. It doesn't necessarily matter what the religion is, but there's again that intention of, you know, this person is going to heal, they are whole, they are repairing, their cells are rejuvenating. And these people, statistically, these people tend to get better at a faster rate than people who don't have that intention, right? And on
Sure.
a really more day-to-day level, we all know somebody who is like always happy and good things always happen to them, or somebody who's always like, oh, you know, they're always complaining, they're always tired, or they're always, you know, there's always a financial burden, whatever. And what happens to these people? This the opposite. Like they're always, you know, more bad things always happen. And so that's kind of a little bit of the backstory, you know, what kind of got me started. This, you know, this is the fast version, but what kind of got me started and down this road with this approach of bringing in this quantum dynamic.
Super interesting. Um, I think that the whole energy medicine and emotional component of healing is way underserved in terms of holistically looking at healing, and it expresses itself in many ways. Like for instance, earlier this week we were talking to a cancer patient survivor, and one of his new narratives, the thing that put him over the top in terms of his healing process, was when he started to really address his underlying emotional challenges. And so when you and how you describe the quantum fields and the quantum energy is all part of this unseen world. We're all connected through these energies. And I think in the past, and many people watching may say, oh, what are they talking about? It's all woo woo. You can't smell it. You can't taste it. You can't hear it. It doesn't exist. Well, you could say the same thing about electromagnetic fields. And now they're finding out that those are, you know, have a true physical and physiological impact on our bodies. And these are same kinds of energies. They are swirling all around us. And so there's a lot to be learned and a lot to be said to this topic. And you're more than just a student, you're a practicing practitioner, actually tapping into these energies and using them to help people heal. And I think it's amazing. And again, I think it's way underserved. And I believe that you're right on the dynamic shift of this paradigm that's going to come, you know, into more full force as things move forward in the future. So, you know, I just want to come back to weight loss and stay on this because this is the topic of the month for us. We've got dear friends doing weight loss programs. I just shot a few videos on it and I'm writing white papers about it. You know that we make infrared products. That's what people know us for. And one of the big ones is our infrared sauna. And many of our customers and patients that come to us, they want the sauna because it's for the weight loss program. And so I laugh sometimes because there's so many hooks to the way that harnessing infrared frequencies, my body of work, helps the body heal. But frankly, I don't really care because sort of like all roads lead to Rome, and that's your own health, better health, right? So, you know, when I read your book and knowing you, I would have never thought that you had a challenge with weight you're at all, because you're very healthy and you're very healthy looking. Yet you clearly articulate that in your book, which I found fascinating. And oftentimes it's sort of pain to passion, like through your own experiences, as you talked about with your training and pain in your knees and your athletic side. You know, it just was very interesting to me that you also addressed your personal challenge, which makes me relate, as everybody out there that's seeing this interview is going to relate to what you're talking about, these struggles. And so in my studies, and I've noticed that there's sort of hurdles in healthcare or barriers where you can get, like, if it was a football game, get the ball to the 10-yard line, but you can't seem to get to the goal. Or your goal was to lose 20 pounds and you got 15 pounds, but you can't seem to lose that last 5. Or, you know, you want to change your shape so your clothes fit better. And, you know, if you're a guy, maybe you're a little more portly and you've got a little pot belly, so you can lose weight everywhere else, but it seems like the belly can't come off, you know? And so I just find, again, your approach to the quantum aspect to be so original and so important. One, because I've never seen anybody address it. And secondly, you're sort of an expert at this. And so to have an expert talk about the energetics interaction to get you through that hurdle, which could very well be the difference between the 5 pounds or the way your clothes fit and or whatever, or being successful or not in your profile, I found to be amazing. So can you just spend a couple of minutes and talk to us about your experience with the kinds of people, patients that you coach and treat, and their challenges with their struggles with weight loss, and then kind of segue into part of what your answers are through your book? Because I know you've got 5 steps and all of them make sense to me, but the way that you approach it is something very original.
Yeah. Yeah, so the kind of people I work with, actually why I wasn't intending to do research on weight loss. I definitely wasn't intending to write a book on weight loss. As a matter of fact, for many years, I sort of resisted as a practitioner, I sort of resisted using weight loss as a hook because I so was against most of the weight loss protocols out there that are like, sort of the get rich quick of weight loss. It's like lose a dress size in 3 days. And most of these are gimmicks. They're not healthy. And I really want to position against that. But honestly, what happened for me is people would come to me with digestive issues. That might be the thing that brought them in. But, and they also really wanted to lose weight. Or they would come to me with depression, anxiety, headaches, hormone issues, whatever. But the weight loss was almost always in that top couple of things they wanted to work on. And so I started seeing that this is affecting almost everybody, and everybody that I was seeing, young and old and male, female. I mean, it didn't matter. It was affecting everybody. And so, I go through in the book, I think there's like 23 or 26, something like that, reasons why, mostly physical reasons that people can't lose weight that nobody even talks about. So things that you wouldn't expect, like a pH that's out of balance or a dental infection or something like that, these kind of weird things that aren't really famous in the weight loss world, all of those play a role. So I'm definitely trying to hunt that kind of stuff down when I'm working with clients and figure that out. But the 5 steps, I call them the quantum 5 of the book, really address no matter what the reason is that you can't lose weight. And by the way, I'll just burst the bubble and say there's probably multiple. There's almost always multiple because everything in our body is so interconnected. And so if you have one issue, you probably have other issues that sort of domino from that. But no matter what the issue is, these 5 things will at least help. For many people, they will completely resolve them. For some people, if you have a dental infection, you need to get that infection taken care of course. But so the approach really is to figure out what specific things may be going on. But in the meantime, addressing the quantum dynamic is always an important piece. So, I always talk about as humans, we're wave and particle, right? We're substance and energy. And so why would we think that we could change the gas but not the oil? Or, you have to have both pieces working for you. And, it's my belief that we were created to heal ourselves if we have what we need. Sometimes we just need to get out of our own way. But, the mechanisms for healing, they're always working in our favor. I always tell people, even cancer is your body trying to save you. Whether it's trying to sequester a tumor so it's not spreading or, whatever the case may be. And so weight is the same way. Weight, nobody likes to hear this, but your excess weight has a purpose. It's trying to help you. It's giving you messages. Nothing in your body happens by accident. And so, figuring out like for each individual, what's going on with you. If you read the book, you may find that as you're reading through some of these reasons, you're like, oh yeah, I probably have that. I probably have that. Sometimes you can just read it and know, oh yeah, I have gas and bloating after I eat. So maybe I have some digestive issues. Well, we tend to think that is isolated, like it's just when I eat, I have this digestive issue. But why do you have digestive issues? Most people weren't born with them. So where did that come from? Well, digestive issues can be a ton of different things, one of which, a very common, maybe the most common one, I think, is stress. So when you're eating under high stress, eating in a hurry, eating rushed, eating, at your desk or, whatever the case might be, you don't digest your food properly. So what happens when you don't digest your food properly? You can just start breaking down all these things. If you don't have enough hydrochloric acid or stomach acid, then your body doesn't produce B12 and you don't produce digestive enzymes and you can't fight infection as well. And so you start having this like spiral of all these things, and I don't say that to be overwhelming because these are things we can get under control, but what's at the root of almost all dis-ease of any kind, stress, emotional trauma, all this like the background stuff. And I found in working with clients so often, you start asking about stress and they're like, oh yeah, they're stressed, but anyway, so what's my issue? And I'm like, no, we can't move past that. Sometimes stress is the issue. Now, if it's, short-term stress, you're going through a hard time, you have a deadline, whatever, is there some things we can do to support that? Yeah, definitely. You can take more nutrients. I do this too for like my clients who are marathon runners or triathletes. Were we designed to do that? I don't know. I think we can get away with it if we know what we're doing nutritionally, but you have to definitely compensate, and it's the same thing. If you have short-term stress, can you take some more nutrition, get a little more sleep, do some things to sort of compensate? Definitely you can. But if that's every single day of your life, if you're in that sympathetic nervous system state where your body's running from lions all the time, every day, and you never get the rest, like I see people like this, and I've had this, most of us have had this where we're like trying to figure out our problems even in our sleep, like you're sleeping, but you wake up and you're like, was I actually out? Or, we're just like ultra conscious. That's a sign you're probably in that fight or flight nervous system state. You open yourself up to all kinds of physical stressors when you're in that emotional state. So, so the approach, as far as, of course, we're hunting down specific things when I'm seeing specific people, but always we have to somehow address the quantum, the subconscious, the mental, emotional state in some way. And then what I love about that is then I find a lot of times some of the other things just go away,
I got it. I got it.
Yeah, a great example. I have clients that it's always funny. They'll be on their program. They're doing well, but maybe they're struggling a little bit. They go away on vacation and they come back and they're like, I didn't eat good. I didn't exercise. They were way off their routine, and yet they felt amazing. Why? All the stress was gone. So if you had that experience where like all your symptoms go away on the weekend, or they always go away when you're, in your happy place, well, that's a pretty good indication that, stress is having a pretty big impact.
I actually wrote a white paper, or I'm not done with it. I'm just in the middle of writing a white paper about that stress gets a bad rap because basically the body responds to stress. When what we are talking about today is an abundance of stress where there's actually an imbalance, but we need stress as a way or an indicator to actually create change in the body. So like a perfect example, you go to the gym and you work out a muscle, you're stressing that muscle out.
Yeah.
And that stress on that muscle is actually going to make that muscle grow. And so we respond to stress. The brain actually catalogs hundreds of thousands of indicators, stresses, influences throughout a day and rebalances that to create that new normal for you, or homeostasis, some kind of balance inside. And so I understand, and in fact, we've created, my company's created a technology called heart rate variability to actually tap into your autonomic nervous system. I know you use QRA, quantum research analysis, which is a form of muscle testing, very advanced form of muscle testing.
Yeah.
to do the same thing, because your autonomic nervous system doesn't lie. So it takes all the intellect out. You're tapping into your inner voice, the one that is actually like a lie detector, is telling you the truth. And that's the beauty of that. And you being an expert at QRA, this type of testing makes you have a huge advantage over really cutting through the mustard. Certainly you listen very intently, and it's one of the things that I love about you. You're a very active listener. And so you ask the question and you listen for the response. And then you'll use your techniques and all of your education and your life experience to harness and guide your patient to the direction that you feel will be the most important step for them to move forward. Now, in your book, the first step, you title it chapter, is words. And I absolutely love that, because there's a very famous doctor who's passed named Emoto, last name. And he built a whole body of work about setting intentions, or the importance of words and those vibrations, and what that means to your consciousness, your self-talk, what your mind is saying, what you manifest in your subconscious when you're sleeping, comes to truth, or be true in your awake moments. And so setting those intentions, having affirmations, being conscious of the words that you choose to describe what you're doing could make the difference between whether the glass is half full or half empty, right? And so I love the fact that you focused on that, and that you actually made that your first one, because normally that's the one that people have the most trouble wrapping their head around. What's wrong with the way I talk, Right. But truth be told, those are learned behaviors. And you can just very easily change your narrative and create a new you, and attract, like you mentioned earlier about quantum laws of attraction is really what you described. If you change the narrative, if you change the tapestry around you and create one that's positive, one that's forward thinking, one that's visionary, like what would my world look like if I had everything I wanted, then the whole direction of your life will change dramatically, almost overnight, frankly. So I love that. And then some of the other steps were water, making sure you're conscious of that, and the foods that you choose, which most people, if it's a dietary weight loss program, will have some idea of program in mind. But what I've noticed in most of the weight loss programs, most of them work. The problem is people, just like nutritional, or supplemental kinds of implementation. We can't stay on the program long enough for it to work. And what I've seen in my research is that you need to, whatever you decide to do, stay with it for at least 21 days, because over those 3 weeks, your chemistry will change, and you'll see little results along the way. But by the end of the third or fourth week, then you look back and you go, oh my God, there's been a big change. So talk to me a little bit about the changing the narrative, changing the headset, getting that emotional switch, because I really think that's important for everybody out there to know.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that really hit me is I realized in my own weight loss journey, by the way, I'm 5'3", so I can't gain very much weight before nothing fits. So I don't, I always laugh because people talk about that last 10 pounds. I'm like, 10 pounds for me is like 2 sizes, there's nowhere for it to go. So I realized what happened for me, honestly, long story short, and there's a little bit more detail in the book, but I went through what I would say is an emotional trauma, but like so many people, I'm like, tough girl, I'm going to be fine. I'm not going to lay in bed about this. So I just keep going. Also known as press it down and think you're getting away with it, but you never are. And I started putting on weight, maybe a pound a month. Well, a pound a month for a couple months, you don't notice too much. But again, when you're 5'3", after a year, an extra 10 pounds is a lot. And then it continued, and it didn't matter what I did. And so one of the things that sort of was a shift for me when I started doing this study that led to this book is recognizing that I started constantly saying things like, my weight. I can't get rid of my weight. I can't get rid of all my weight. Well, I'm trying to lose my weight. And I was like, of course you can't, now I see, I'm like, of course you can't get rid of it. You're bringing it in as your own. You're making it part of your own. And your brain doesn't really process negative so well. So if I tell you, do not think about the pink elephant in the room, your brain automatically has a picture. We think in pictures, right? You didn't think of the word elephant, E-L-E, you didn't spell it out. You saw a picture of a pink elephant. So if you're constantly talking about your weight, how can I get rid of my weight? Even though you're saying, how can I get rid of it? The weight is what you're seeing, and it's what your body's manifesting. Now, the shift is, it's not that you can't think about it. You don't have to be in denial, because some people are like, well, there is weight. Do I just have to say I don't have any extra weight? You don't necessarily have to say that. I think saying nothing might be better than the alternative. But what you can say is, what can I do to be thin and healthy? What can I do to reach my optimal, most radiant health? Because that's my standard. I'll just, full disclosure, I ended up writing a book on weight loss because I knew that was the hook I could use to help the most people. That's really what it was.
Love that. It's beautiful. Beautiful.
For a while, I'm like, is that deceptive? And I'm like, it's the way I can help a lot more people. Because if I said this program was about, this was the crazy thing. People on this program, it was a 4-month study when I did the original research. It was a 4-month study, and people, they definitely lost weight. There were 4 different groups, a control group and then 3 active groups. The active groups all lost weight, and the what you really need to know, the groups that did the best, it's synthesized into what made it into the book. But they all lost weight. But nobody knew why I was really doing this. But what I was thinking at the beginning is, I think this is going to help a lot more than just weight. So I'm going to use weight as the hook because that's what everybody wants. And then I'm going to track some other things. So what we found was people had improvements in their sleep, their mood, their blood pressure, their blood sugar. All these things were getting better, and we were not directly doing anything for those things. So I'll just tell you, there were different groups, and it doesn't really matter other than to say, I just want to remind you, because I was doing this for research, they were not allowed to do any exercise. They couldn't change their diet at all. So if they were on standard American diet, they had to stay on standard American diet. Some of these things that are in the book, I've added to, even blow up the results, because it was really just the words, primarily, that people were using these statements and addressing that inner man piece. They were losing weight, lowering their blood pressure, improving their sleep, improving even relationships, feeling like they had more purpose. We tracked these things, and this was for a weight loss study. So people were getting their lives back, in such a simple way. And I wrote this book. Are there 100 other things that could be done that will support weight loss? Definitely. But I did write this in a way that anybody could do it from anywhere on any budget. And so, are supplements helpful? Yes. And I talked briefly about that sort of in the index. I think that's super important. I think most people need supplements, unless you live in the Garden of Eden with perfect food and no stress, and you're not breathing the toxins in the air or whatever. We need supplements. We definitely need detox. But I synthesized it down to what does everyone need and what can everyone do. And I want to just make a quick note about water, because you brought up Dr. Emoto's work, which I really love. And when, just briefly to summarize, what Dr. Emoto basically claimed, that our intentions could change them. He's a Japanese doctor. He claimed, this is what they say if you just look him up, that our intentions could change the molecular structure of water. But actually, he didn't just claim it, because he put it to the test and researched it, and you could look in the microscope and see that he would take a glass of water, multiple glasses of water, and he would write the word hate on one of them, love, peacefulness, gratitude, all these different good and bad, positive or negative feelings. And then after I think it was overnight or 24 hours, he would look at a drop of water under the microscope, and the water in the, you know, love and gratitude and grace and forgiveness and, you know, those positive high frequency words were all like these beautiful, they look like kind of like snowflakes. If you look this up, you can see pictures of them. But the ones that were like hate and disgust and bitterness or whatever, they were like these real kind of gnarly looking, ugly, like it was all water from the same place. But this is the really cool thing. And this is where there's like an interface of the quantum and the physical and non-physical kind of come together. Is the reason the second of my quantum 5, the second one is water. It's not just because we need to be hydrated. Water is a carrier of frequency, and we're like at least 70%, we should be 70% water. So you think about the more hydrated you are, actually, the more efficiently you're going to carry the frequency of whatever you're vibrating. Well, now it's like, whoa, we need to really be careful what we think, right? What we let through our mind. We need to discipline our minds. You know, I personally, I love the scriptures, and, you know, the Bible says there's two things that always stick with me. One is, as a man thinks, so he is. So it's really important, just sticking with this example, that we're thinking, how can I have radiant health? If you have radiant health, trust me, all the weight goes away. I've actually worked with people who needed to gain weight, and they could do the same thing, because radiant health for somebody who's too thin is to gain a little bit of weight, right? So if that's your intention, like, that's great. And then the water, you hydrate, and you're like maximizing that. And then the other passage that I love, death and life are in the power of the tongue. So what we say, our words and our thoughts, really create the outcomes, the manifestations of what we want.
Wow.
And so,
Amazing.
yeah, I mean, you can't sit there always talking about how bad things are. If they're bad, fine. Okay, something is going on, something is hurting you. Don't deny it. Feel the fear, feel it fully, because that's the only way to make it go away, is to accept, like, I am hurting right now, but how can I make this better? How can I allow grace to be poured out in this situation? So as our mutual mentor, Dr. Marshall, would say, we can turn adversity to advantage.
Right.
That's really
all right. So let me make this a little more personal. So this is what I look at every morning. So this is my visualization. So I want to have those kind of abs. And so
wait, that's not you? Isn't that you?
It is me now, but it wasn't me then.
Gotcha.
But before I put this up, what I needed to do was have that reminder. And here's my affirmation that I read every morning. First thing I do is I grab 8 to 10 ounces of structured water, good, healthy water.
Yep.
I've set my intention into the water. I view this picture. I then read my affirmation. And this little picture here, this was Robby way back when. So I probably was 5 or 6 then. So as you can see, I haven't changed very much. Right. I start my day and I end my day in gratitude, and by setting my intentions, creating that vibration. What you said earlier was so important. We are water, we are light beings, and water is a carrier of all this information. Our brain is about 81% water, our cells are like 98% water. And so having, and actually, one of the things that, I've had, besides Dr. Marshall, I've been fortunate to have other mentors in my life. And one of them, I had a private audience with Dr. Gerald Pollack, who's now considered the world's authority on water, took Dr. Emoto's work and moved it up a notch and wrote a book called The Fourth Phase of Water, where he discovered that certain rays of sunlight, which is the infrared spectrum where I spend most of my time, will restructure and reorder the water inside of you. And so that became so important, because I'm always searching for the micro reasons why our technology is so important or impactful on your physiology. And another thing you cover in your book, and you mentioned earlier, is about detox, because that seems to be a hurdle also, and stress for weight loss. So people can be healthy, can eat right, but if they're stressed out, that's a block. and detox. Even you mentioned infrared saunas in your book, as opposed to other kinds of ways to detox. But infrared sauna is one that we've found and enjoyed an amazing amount of joy in helping purge those toxins and allowing cells and tissues to methylate and operate on efficiently. And so when you've got all of these, it's sort of like an engine. When you're in disrepair, like and I love this because Dr. Marshall, if you probably know this, was a mechanic jockey, and one of his famous little sayings he had on his commercials that I think they're still running now when I call up the PRL, was he's talking about how the body is like a well-tuned Maserati or sports car, right? And so if we were a sports car, and most of us are now walking the earth on probably out of 12 cylinders, maybe have 8 cylinders firing. How do we get the other 4 cylinders going so that all these systems are working in synergy together so that we are the optimal health or the best that we can be for ourselves? Yeah. And that's what I love about your book, because you basically bring it all together. And like you said earlier, the hook might be weight loss, but it's like Colorado. You go for the winter to ski, but you stay for the summer. There's so much stuff in this book that's important for overall health and prosperity and well-being that it's a go-to. And I wrote that in my commentary on your book, that I just feel it's just such an important part of should be part of everyone's library. So we're running out of time, and I feel sorry about that because I could talk to you for days.
I know. I agree.
Is there anything, in closing, to the audience? And remember, you can get to LeAnn directly by going to her website. Is probably the best way, newhopehealth.com, spelt like it sounds, NEWHOPEHEALTH.com. Dr. Leanne Fritz, tell us in closing the message of the day. What would you like to leave us with in closing today?
Okay, the message of the day. The message of the day is, no matter how long you've been in this battle, there's always hope. I'm speaking like, I'm going to just let my heart bleed a little bit on you, because this issue is not just about vanity. Our hearts are tied deeply with how we look and how we feel. And so you're on this earth not just to battle your weight, because we need to get rid of that. That's what this book is about. Let's get rid of that battle so we can move on with our real purpose. And whether, optimal health for you is about running around with your grandbabies on the beach and throwing them up in the air and having a great time and being able to keep up with a toddler, or whether it is wild sex with the lights on, whatever it is for you, we need to get rid of the weight so that we can move on and enjoy life. And there's always hope. And if you're struggling with your weight, there is a reason, and it's not often as far away as you think, but it does require a different approach. But what I really love about the best approaches, they're so simple. It's change your words. It's drink water. It's get in the sauna. And I'm not saying there's not a place to work hard, because, we need to do that sometimes too. But sometimes it's just be a little bit gentle on yourself. I'm talking to myself here now too. But ease up a little bit and if you want your body to work for you, treat it like you would your little 3-year-old niece or nephew, granddaughter, grandson, son, daughter, neighbor, kid, whatever. You would never have that little toddler skip lunch. No, you would never have that little toddler lay in bed all day and not go play outside. You would nourish this child with, sun and fun and joy, and you do everything you could to take stress away from them, to nourish their mind, their body, their spirit. And you are worth that, right? You're a child of God. So, you're worth that same intention and energy and nourishment. Nourishment isn't just about food, right? It's about, spiritual nutrition, physical nutrition, and, so I just always want to leave people with so much hope. There's so much hope. I mean, even if you've battled for years, it could be gone like that.
You can change your narrative. The Quantum Weight Loss Blueprint. Must read. Leanne, thank you for joining us today. Another episode of Healthy Hotline, knocking the leather off the ball as usual. Can't wait to see you and talk to you again. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Healthy Hotline today, hosted by Robby Besner. To learn more about Therasage, as well as get a discount on your next purchase for being a listener of the show, go to Therasage.com and enter Healthy Hotline at checkout. That's one word, Healthy Hotline, to get a special discount on your next Therasage purchase. Subscribe to the Healthy Hotline on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'll see you in the next episode.